Hello and welcome to the 6th episode of the Heathen Wyrdos Podcast. This episode, we're delving into the depths of heathenry and pagan spaces to talk about dog whistles and red flags. It's an unfortunate fact that, in heathenry in particular, there's a few minefields to navigate, to put it gently. Our religion is inherently political, and our symbols and gods are misappropriated and twisted to spread hate. For newcomers, it can feel incredibly overwhelming to navigate these minefields. Hopefully we can help illuminate the way for you. But first, let's introduce the weirdos we have here for this episode.
Hi, I'm Jai. My pronouns are she, her.
Hi, Kenna. Also she, her.
Hi, I'm Theo. My pronouns are they, them.
Hello, and it's me, Sif. My pronouns are she, her. Firstly, let's define the terms we're using here. Dog whistles are words or phrases that, to most people, would seem innocent, but to those in the know broadcast a very specific message. It's like a code word that a handful of people understand. Red flags are things that are more overt, things to keep an eye out for. Muddying the waters a bit is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. I know in my experience that you tend to have a few camps of people, those that are uninformed and quite happy to change their mind. Those that are very much aware of the whistle they're blowing, so to speak, and those that believe there's historical precedents, and unfortunately tend to dig in deep when informed. I find that's quite common with a symbol like the Black Sun, the Sonnenrad, many claiming that the Nazis, and let's be clear here, it is a symbol that was invented by the Nazis, appropriated an older symbol. That's just not true, but oh boy, do people push back on that. So, red flags, hard stop. Not a good place to be. Does anyone want to kick off the conversation on red flags?
I don't know where to start here because they're all awful.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the most important one, I think, is probably the one that's easiest to spot for me. This is going to sound ridiculous because I know about the rest of these we're going to talk about, but the one that I spot first is always the no politics rule. As soon as I hear a community being like, no politics, I go, oh, so this is trash. Cool, thanks.
We also say that because I don't think anyone here is cis hetero. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm non-binary and pan or something, and everyone else is not heterosexual. So, like, technically, existing for us is inherently political. So when someone says no politics, it's like, we don't want to know if someone's hating on you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of the heathen equivalent of don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, basically.
I don't like it.
I'm so glad you said that because I've been thinking that for like months now, and I'm like, it's basically don't ask, don't tell.
It's exactly what it is. It's
Pretty
glad
much.
I'm not the only one thinking about it like that.
But also the no politics rule almost guarantees that there's going to be someone in that community that's going to be like, you're not this exact like cis hetero thing. That's I don't know about that. And it's like, do you willingly go into a space to find community when you know that that's going to happen to you? And obviously, like, what saying, like, oh, I don't know about that is one of the least bad options. Like, I've been threatened with death before just for being who I am.
Yeah. When someone says no politics, I immediately associate that with leftist politics. It doesn't mean conservative or right. It means woke, SJW, that shit.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that is a big red flag. If someone says no politics, or if they consider themselves an enlightened centrist at best,
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But also, tell me one thing that doesn't get political at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, you got a good point. Girl Scout cookies turn into a politics argument if you try hard enough. Yeah, the no politics rule is a blank check to shut down conversations about things they don't want to hear.
it's true.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Lucky for us, it's one of the easiest ones to spot because usually it's right on the front page of a group and organization.
And it'll
Whatever.
usually be like within the top 5 rules too.
Yeah, you see it a lot on Facebook groups too, like, don't bring up politics. Like, but it's Facebook, it's unavoidable. I don't know where you think you are.
Right. Like, yeah. Facebook just should rename itself to politics.
Oh, Jesus.
Politics book.
That would be enough to, like, actually get me off of there.
I'm not on Facebook, but I respect people who are.
I guess the next one we should probably just mark off straight away is any associations with the Asatru folk assembly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any associations.
That is bright red, blinking in neon.
You know those stop signs that are like outlined in LEDs?
Yes.
And flashing
Yeah.
LEDs.
So, hey, since you love the AFA so much, what does AFA stand for?
Oh, good God. My brain just went stupid.
I think she just said it, but yeah.
My brain just went, what? It's the
What a
Asatru,
team.
Asatru Folk Assembly. It was initially founded as a splinter group. Initially, it was the Viking Brotherhood. That was founded back in 72. That then evolved into the Asatru Free Assembly, which was disbanded in 86. And that was when you got the split between the Asatru Alliance, which was the focused version, and the Troth.
Was it really much of a split, though?
I mean,
I tried.
I'm sorry. I'm
The
throwing
Troth
shade left
tried.
and right here.
the Troth tries.
They do.
They
do
are
try.
trying. The AFA is
Not.
throwing shit at a wall, but
Okay, but like the AFA has rules like you have to be white.
exactly.
Yeah. You can't be polygamist.
They also have said weird shit about adopting kids, like
Yeah,
getting
it's,
something
it's white
for white
children,
families with children of their own.
children of their own, yeah.
Which is like a weird thing because we know that adoption in historical heathenry was a very common and well-respected practice. So for them to be like,
Yeah, and back then adoption was absolute. Like once you were adopted, there was no question you were part of that family.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, well, but that's the adopted one. It's like, no, that's their son. Like,
Yeah,
That's it.
full on.
Full stop, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, so the AFA has had a weird history. It's been a whole bunch of different names, but they've all followed very similar naming. They have always used the word folk.
well, and dog whistle of folk, like we're not talking like folk magic or anything like that. Like that's
folk
fine.
magic, folk music, folks. If you're from the South and you say folks to refer to people, this isn't about you. This is a
Yeah.
specific use of the word folk in context.
Like gather the folk is a really common phrase.
Blech.
Or I think we've seen it Volk, like folk not FOLK but VOLK.
Yeah, it's the German. Volkish.
That's another thing that goes with the AFA is the Asatru Folk Assembly is just like they're definitely using it in the dog whistle way.
That's the magic of dog whistles, though. The point is that you have to be this specific.
Dog whistles with places that aren't like the AFA are subtle tells for other people who think similarly, like to the fascist and bigoted narratives that these places have. So there's subtle cues that aren't huge red flags that they're going to be welcomed there and that this group thinks the same way they do.
It's very much along the lines of if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Quick example of that, I'm sure we all remember when the far right in America started using the OK sign. The OK sign was never anything other than a symbol of the word okay. And then back, I want to say early 2016 or 17. I could be completely wrong on the year, so. But they started using the OK sign very covertly as a symbol that they were sympathetic to the far right, very racist, very bigoted platforms.
It came to mean white power.
Yeah, because if you actually look at it, the three fingers was the W, and then it was the P upside down.
Total mindfuck.
I will never
Yeah.
forgive them for taking Hawaiian shirts.
Or Pepe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rude. Anyways.
Just tainting everything.
And that's the thing with dog whistles. Dog whistles are little things, and as soon as they get found out, they'll get rid of them and they'll go on to something new. There's probably some brand new dog whistle that we don't know about right now.
They always, dog whistles do always evolve. And so, yeah, you have to be vigilant with it.
So what you're saying is, in like 5 years, we're gonna have to do a redo of this episode.
5
But
years?
But we may have to try a year, 2 tops.
6
from now.
months.
Yeah.
Next
Fine.
Sif just died. It's fine. It's fine.
Got through McNallen, a bitch boy supreme.
Well, he's always been mask off, but yeah, he's not even.
He'll go into hiding for a little while.
He's not even dog whistling anymore. He's straight up just like, he's got treats out. He's just attracting all the gross.
He's all about white race and, the replacement theory and all that.
So he's dog bullhorning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the AFA is really bad because they start to insert themselves also into local government. They know how to do it.
That's true.
They've been buying up old churches.
Yeah.
And turn them into Hoffs.
Well, didn't they just recently have news coverage that
Exactly.
they're
They
the
were
only
just loud enough.
exclusive white church left in North America?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were just on the news in the last 6 months.
And that poor reporter was a person of color. Oh god.
Yeah, we'll link that Vice article, the Vice video as well in the description. But
Not a
they
great
actually have as of right now they have 3 churches they've bought up, one in California, one in North Carolina, and one in Minnesota.
Ugh, so close to me.
They do have a symbol of membership that looks strikingly similar to the Volknut. It's a 3-pronged horn design, so watch for that. I can't show you pictures.
Well, we can link them.
Yeah, I can find links for the AFA tri-horn bullshit and the Volknut, so you can differentiate those because it is important, and at a glance they look really similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also know that it looks very similar to the 3 Horns of Odin, which is now considered a bit of a
yellow flag.
So the other major asshole that came out of the AFA is Stephen Flowers / Adrid Thorson / Arbin E. Den. These are all the same person.
Jesus.
Sorry you had to hear all of those names at once.
It's like the Scooby-Doo mask.
Right.
Mask after mask after mask.
Oh,
Dude.
Still him.
This dude. The hard part is that he cites himself in his books. He's an author. So every once in a while you'll read a Flowers book and it'll cite Thorson, and that's just some circle jerk.
Him sorting himself.
So yeah, he's citing himself there, which is
great. I get that you legally have to do that, but it's not a cute look when you're using different pens. Whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. It's not. I don't know. That's some big dick energy right there, like in one of the worst ways
Certainly
possible.
faking it. So the problem with Flowers is that he's one of the only modern authors on the runes. That doesn't make him a good author. He's full of shit. His rune lore is bad.
Just read the rune poems.
Yeah. I've read through some of his stuff, and he doesn't hide his bullshit very well. Just spouts bullshit and throws in like, oh, the swastika used to be a heathen symbol, as if anybody is gonna just take that and run with it, which is real cute.
Who cares if it was? It's been so it's
been so bastardized.
After the Holocaust and Hitler and everything, just no, it's not reclaimable. At least not right now.
Not.
Like maybe sometime in the future.
Yeah, not when you've got living survivors.
Yeah.
I say that coming from a family that has living survivors in it.
Yeah.
That symbol is not reclaimable right now. It won't be for at least 2 or 3 more generations.
We are aware of the swastika being used in like is it Hindu?
Yes. But that's a different orientation.
It's faced the opposite way. So it is important to be aware of orientations, but also still, I'm not saying like distrust anyone that has the Hindu orientation, but like keep on your toes.
One of the key points with symbols that have been Nazified, for lack of a better word, is that when modern people try to claim them as historical heathen symbols or reclaimable heathen symbols, that's the fuck out button. That's the nope.
That's when we see my eyelid twitch like it is right now. Something too to note with Flowers is not only has he been a big voice in Asatru and Norse heathenry, but, and this is only something I found out this week by doing some research, is that he was actually active in a lot of left-hand path occult spaces. And we'll talk about more about that stuff like Theosophy and whatnot later in the episode. Because witchcraft and neo-paganism and occultism are not without their own red flags and dog whistles.
Right.
It's not just heathenry.
Nope.
We'll stay with heathenry for a minute, but we'll get to the witch shit.
I'm just throwing that out there because there is that with flowers, especially. I did not know that with flowers, but there is that hand-in-hand thing of, asshole heathens who are racist and fascist, and asshole occultists who are racist and fascist.
I will add with flowers, Thorson, whoever, whatever you like, one of those names, same person. So I have seen Thorson defend himself. Like, I haven't been a part of the AFA since this point in time, and like in the 90s or early 2000s, I can't remember. And I don't support McNallen, and like I was part of it before it became that, blah blah blah. If you get on Thorson's Facebook, you can see within the last 2 years, like when the AFA has been in its prime, like holy shit time. You can see within the last 2 years that he publicly supports McNallen and the AFA.
And you can also find that since the year 2013, the AFA actually owned the rights to a lot of his books, so buying his books new directly funded the AFA. Don't know if that has stopped. I know he's claimed it has, but like, I don't trust the man who cites himself under a different name. Sorry.
I don't trust it and he does.
Neither do I.
He does say that like his current proceeds go to like animal shelters and stuff, which I fully support. I am an animal lover, but just buy his books used if you really need them. Like I'm not saying that he's amazing or you should totally love all of his books, but like he does have some decent rune books, but you can also just read the rune lore. The rune lore is public domain. It's free. Like
Rune episode when?
soon.
Yeah, trash.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I added the part where it's like, no, like he is like vocal, like I don't support the AFA anymore and I'm not part of them, but the time in which he says he doesn't support them and like doesn't have anything to do with them is like, it's a good space of time away, and like he still publicly supports them on his Facebook profile. Millie.
It's great. We're doing great.
Come on.
We've got to have one of those every episode.
Seriously.
Oh my god. I love my dogs.
As of about 6 or 7 months ago, people are still finding that the AFA owns the rights to anything written under Edward Thorson.
Do you have proof of that, Jay?
I'll find a more cited source, but I'm finding it about 4 different places.
Oh no, that's fine. Like I believe you. I just want to make sure. Like if we can have
absolutely.
that, I would love to put that
Absolutely.
in this episode's comment section.
Absolutely. If I can find something other than the wiki page and 5 different posts in Reddit, like it's 5 separate posts. So
Next symbol, one that you see quite frequently, the winged odal or othala.
Winged othala or odal. Internet is supremely unhelpful at differentiating these two symbols, but they are not the same thing. The odal is a Nazi-created or Nazi bastardization of the rune othala, meaning Earth homestead. They like it because they throw ancestry in there, which is stupid, but whatever.
See, I see those two as the same, right? Othala is just another name for the odal, at least over here.
Yeah, that's the problem, because when you Google it, odal and othala will show you the same symbol. But the problem here is that othala is the actual Elder Futhark reconstructed name for the rune, whereas odal is what the Nazis called it when they put the stupid little boots on it.
The boots.
It's just not differentiated well online. So you can Google an odal and find an othala. You can Google an othala and find an odal. The symbols are different because one of them has a Nazi add-on and is racist.
The boots.
Circle with legs and boots.
Yes.
It's Nazi.
A little diamond with the Nazi boots.
Yeah, that one is surprisingly everywhere. There was a tattoo artist that I quite enjoyed who does really cool, like mythological art. But rather recently, he tattooed, I want to say Thor and Odin, and he included the winged othala / odal, and then promptly decided to delete the message that I sent to him saying you might want to, not, well, it's too late now, you've tattooed it on the guy, but yeah, he deleted everything and blocked me, and I was like,
oh,
brilliant.
nice. See, so that's one of the best things you can do when it comes to symbols like the othala and the odal, because the internet is so aggressively unhelpful at differentiating those. The way that people respond to being called out about it and tell you a lot about them.
Yep.
On that note, speaking of things that people love getting tattooed, but also other things that are everywhere, let's talk about the Black Sun.
Ugh.
Yeah. The Black Sun, I've seen a lot of people question its origins, like it might have had some historical origins, but it seems is it the Sun Cross? Is that what it's based off of?
The sun wheel, yeah.
Sun wheel, yes. The sun wheel, because like sun wheels normally have like 6 or fewer legs in them, but the Black Sun has 12. Is it 12 legs?
There's loads.
It's got a lot of
There's a
legs.
ton.
And it's normally
Too many.
Yeah. Like the Black Sun was on the floor of like a Nazi castle. Can't remember the name of it.
That's the first place it shows up. It's a Nazi created symbol based off of sun wheels that first shows up. The Black Sun itself first shows up in Himmler's Weisselberg Palace in the 40s. So like it's historical like that, but it's not historically heathen.
And I know people have desperately tried to find some historical stuff to support that it was there. Like, and I do know people who have personally gone through like the blueprints of the castle and like every other thing for when it was built to see if it was originally there before it was taken over. And no one has been able to find anything definitive to say that it was there before.
Yeah, we can only trace it back to Himmler and the SS. It's pretty clearly a Nazi symbol.
Yeah, I think the irritating thing about it is that it's so prevalent for uninformed parties in paganism broadly. It is stupidly associated with paganism.
Yeah.
And it's going to be an absolute mission to try and just split the two, because for some reason people just love using it. It was really recently used in, I want to say, a shield design for Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yes. Also printed on the cover page of a book that I bought recently that is written by someone who like in the book he talks about Himmler and the SS and Nazi appropriation of heathen symbols, and yet Black Sun's on the cover page.
Isn't it on a shield in Skyrim?
Probably.
For some reason it's ridiculously prevalent,
Yeah.
and we need to really start shouting out about it. But this shit's got to stop.
Yeah.
I'm just getting tired of seeing it.
Well, I mean, and I think it's so common because like a lot of people are able to kind of at least half justify it because they're like, oh, it's just a sun wheel with more legs. Which I mean, it technically is just a sun wheel with more legs, but it makes it's different.
And a Nazi
because
history.
Of that. Yeah. But like, so it's one of those things because it's like, yeah, like we have the sun wheel. It looks similar. So people are like, oh, it's fine. Because the sun wheel is not a Nazi symbol. Or as far as I'm aware, it's not a bigoted symbol of any kind.
No.
So
Some nails, some crosses are fine.
Yeah.
And I think the other major symbol to come out of the Nazification of heathenry is the wolf's angel, right?
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to say that had rather innocent beginnings, right? And then it was fully co-opted.
Yeah. I see things as old as like around the 8th century being called a wolf hook, and that's that. Honestly, it looks like an Elhaz. It looks like a rune. But yeah, it was basically claimed by the Nazis. Bastards.
Oh dear. Yeah, so it's not fully ancient. It's not from, for instance, the Viking Age.
Oh yeah, no, it's not from the Viking Age at all. It's like the heraldry is the first appearance.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know how we want to do this. I guess we'll put all the links in, just so you know what, obviously, because we're just saying words here and you can't associate those with pictures. But I guess another one that kind of has, I want to say in the last episode, I quoted Adam of Bremen. He mentions, he's a German chronicler, a medieval chronicler, and he, I believe, in the exact same paragraph that I quoted, actually refers to Woden as Wotan, and that is the only historical reference I could find of Wotan, or maybe one of the few.
Wotan is the one that's used most often by Macnallan. The name for Odin that is used most often by Macnallan, to be clearer.
His fireside chats, quote unquote, on Facebook are literally called the Wotan Network.
Wotan stands for the will of the Aryan nation, which is why it's problematic.
Say Wotan around a bunch of Anglo-Saxon heathens and they're going to
get
beat the hell out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna get smacked with a glory twig.
Big knitting pole.
And that's the thing, is that's how they do this.
Yeah.
They go, oh, they'll pronounce it so quickly that you're not going to pick up that it's the T instead of the D.
Because
sound.
Woden is a very common, like, different name.
That's
Odin.
Woden has many names. Some of them have been made up, but whatever. And I feel like on that note, with like the will of the Aryan nation, like another common phrase that is extremely problematic is drink from your own well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because, like, to me, that inherently tells me that, like, people expect you to follow, like, genetic heritage. Like, I think there was a creator that it really helped me nope away from them, where they were like, oh, yeah, you can follow the Norse gods and stuff like that. But if you have any genetics that are, like, from, like, I can't remember exactly the phrasing, but, like, if you have Native American genetics of some sort, or like if you're a person of color, you should also really be looking at those gods and making sure you're following them too.
At the idea that ancestry or quote-unquote DNA connects you to a specific set of deities.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Kind of trash when it comes to heathenry. There are situations where that's a valid association, thinking specifically of initiatory or closed traditions that are culturally based. The problem is that in the context of heathenry, it's a load of bullshit.
Yeah, the Vikings were walking around doing DNA tests, right?
Well, and also, like, because on that note, like, the Vikings got around everywhere. Like, we have maps and, like, archaeological proof that they made it well into Africa. And so
let's not pretend that the Vikings weren't, like, going around and finding out all around the world.
Right. And also just, like, let's also not just glorify the Vikings. Like, they did some really messed up shit.
That's true. And regardless of where the Vikings did or did not go, and who they did or did not marry,
or adopt,
it's kind of bullshit to limit the gods that you worship as only connected to those of a certain threshold of DNA.
Right. Well, and also let's acknowledge that DNA does not equal culture. Like,
no,
there's a reason people of initiatory practices that are cultural genetically be related to them, but you aren't necessarily in the practice if you didn't initiate in. Like, and we're talking anywhere from, like, I have 1% DNA to, like, people who have way more. Like, if, like, I personally know people who have left their parents or their grandparents left the culture so that aren't, like, they're genetically part of it, but they aren't culturally part of it.
Right.
So, like, it's tricky.
That feeds into blood purity.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately the problem with dog whistles, is they just kind of flow into each other, but you start realizing, okay, so, all right, I'm hearing this dog whistle and I can follow it backwards to one that I know is definitely something red flag.
Right.
But blood purity is just that, is you don't need a specific percentage of DNA from a specific region. You don't need to be 6th generation Scandinavian in order to be a heathen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the key message here. Anyone who tells you otherwise is racist and lying.
Yep.
Yeah. The gods don't care about what color you are. They do not care about what your genetics have to say.
Yeah, that removes the agency from the gods as well. I find it quite insulting to be like,
absolutely.
The gods are somehow you're limiting them to only contacting white people, and I find that just to be
bullshit.
Awful.
Really problematic.
On multiple levels.
You'll also see people making the blood purity argument or the drink from your own well argument, referencing the idea that heathenry is the native religion of Northern Europe. Which is a really fun phrase to unpack, because there are, like, layers to this here.
The fact that they're using native religion, instant, because the people who use that line will not use the words indigenous cultures when it comes to the cultures that we know as indigenous. They will use native, which it implies some sort of savagery, or they're not as...
primitivism.
Right. So there's that. So saying the native religion of Northern Europe, it's like...
In a society in which we did not have systemic oppression, I would have far fewer issues with that.
Story.
However, that's not where we are.
Welcome to layers. There are layers to these dog whistles.
Like onions. Don't compare them to onions. I really like onions. Please don't. That was a mistake.
You'll also find with this idea of native religion of Europe, tend to find two pretty problematic connections. They typically assume that heathenry was identical from the south of Germany to the north of Finland, which is bullshit. There's a shit ton of variation going on here that typically people of this disposition don't recognize. But you'll also find that they devalue actual indigenous traditions that still exist in Scandinavia. I'm thinking very specifically of Northern Sami people. They often are not included in this conversation, and if you're gonna be talking about native and indigenous religion, kind of need to get your shit together on that.
So, I guess kind of to tie in with, like, I think this is the last red flag we have listed. So we've talked about all the different names for Odin. That we will let someone else tell you about all of the different names for Odin. That's a different episode. But Odinist, someone declaring they are an Odinist or basically an Odin devotee, that is a red flag. Millie, what are you doing?
See, even Millie knows.
Yeah,
this.
Millie's upset about it.
Red
Millie's
flag.
like, that's shit. Tiny floofy baby. So a lot of Odin devotees will use this without realizing the greater context of the term. Or I guess that also ties into, because of this phrase, I also when people take on the last name, even if it's their heathen name that they have chosen, where it's Thorson or follower of Thor or son of Thor, but when people are my name is Odinson, I'm I recognize that that's not inherently problematic, but I have questions. Yeah.
And that's contextual. It's
so contextual.
An unfortunate history of Odinism being a very white power, white race centric label. Didn't start that way, it just evolved into it. So even now, this is exactly why we can't have nice things. So even now, we have to be careful about the judgments we're making on that, but we also have to stay aware that it's very commonly used as a dog whistle.
This is one of those blood orange ones where it's okay, we need to ask you a question. Do you believe in the Odinic rite, or are you just a new heathen who, your main hearth god is Odin, and you think this is... Absolutely. Odin a lot of time is what brings people in. So if you're devoting yourself to Odin, that's awesome. But here's a little bit of education that we have to do in spaces.
And I do want to emphasize, because I know that new heathens have a pretty big fear of accidentally throwing a dog whistle. It is never your fault for not knowing that something is a dog whistle the first time you see it. So if you find that when you came into heathenry, Odinism was a label you adopted, and now you're disgusted with yourself for not recognizing that it was a dog whistle, take a deep breath and don't do that. Because when you are new, the point of these things is that they're hard to identify if you do not know it well enough. And it is never your fault for being new at something and not knowing everything about it.
I've got a pile of books that are from now I know are dodgy authors, and they're now in hiding, and I've put them away.
Books are in hiding, or the authors are in hiding?
Both. I'm coming for you. No, all the ones we'll probably get on to discussing at some point on the podcast, or now or later, or we have. In hindsight, I've lesson learned, and guaranteed you might find a few authors, maybe flowers on your bookcase. It's okay to be wrong and to hide the books away, or get rid of them, or donate them, or whatever. Don't donate them, actually. just spread out. Yeah.
Or if you're going to donate them, what you should do is you should go through the books and you should write in them about why stuff is wrong and where they should look.
Not wrong.
Yes. That's a good idea. We're going to move on to yellow flags, which are like red flags, but not as bad.
Yeah, they're the things you want to investigate more. Slow down, second look.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of this, I think it was either on the Heathenry Reddit or the Norse paganism Reddit. There was a really good comment about red flags and dog whistles, and one that was mentioned on there that they believe was a good barometer for is it a sus group or not, was their opinion on Freya and Loki.
Oh.
And these tend to be, for instance, if they see Freya as singularly a fertility and love goddess.
No.
And
Do you just feel
reduce
our
her
blood
to those
pressure
roles.
rise?
Yep. Yep. because they
Collectively,
see
we're
that.
all like, "Grr."
Tense.
Yeah. Because they see that as a very feminine woman sphere. Those are the goddesses. That's where they
Yes.
lie. This is making me okay.
Let's limit our
Cringing a
gods.
little
It's great. They appreciate
Deep
it.
breath.
Yeah, as in they'll see like masculine gods as being very warlike, and and feminine gods being very love goddesses. And in that kind of vein, they see Loki as a devil Lucifer stand-in. Yeah, so if it can be a good barometer. And I want to say, side note, I'm pretty sure that Reddit user, we know them.
Oh,
Awesome.
They were, yeah. I think they're going to be like, oh, that's me.
cool. Well, thank you.
Shout out.
There you go. Mhm.
F shout
There
out.
we go. Onwards.
Cool with that.
Yeah, a shout.
Subtle shout out. Shout.
Ugh. I hate it when people limit the
Alright.
gods. I hate it so much.
Yes.
And that's across the board. Like,
Mhm.
there is no deity in, I'm going to venture to say, any pagan faith who is very specifically one thing.
It's like they're fully rounded people or something.
Fake news.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
And not every female goddess is about the home and fertility.
Okay, like let's talk about Andrimnir. I am probably
Mhm.
butchering that name. I did
No,
a
I think
thumbs
I
up.
think you nailed it.
Because you all can definitely see that. Anyways, so
I felt
his
it.
name basically translates into modern English as sooty, and he was the chef of the gods. Like every day
Mhm.
he butchers the same boar. I am not going to try to pronounce the boar's name, but the boar regenerates every day. And like so he's their cook as a guy.
Mm.
Well, quote unquote guy, he's a god, I don't know, whatever. He has exactly one sentence in the lore. Just one. But his name translates to sooty because he was the chef. He would constantly, be cooking for them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, over a fire.
Yeah. Does that sound warlike to you?
No, exactly.
No.
You say sooty, I think little yellow bear. Is that a British thing?
Maybe.
Or is it across the board?
Well, now
It's a
I'm
British
thinking
thing.
about Boo Boo. We are all professionals or something.
I'll put a gif in because sooty is a Oh my god, there he is.
Oh, I love him.
my god,
he's
what is that cute
cute.
little baby?
Oh my god, Theo.
He's adorable.
Sooty.
That's so
Yeah.
cute. Love it.
Oh, there's not a lot of gifs of sooty. Oh dear. There was like another one as well. There was like a group of them.
Oh goodness.
Now I'm thinking about Mr. Rogers.
That's me. That's me when Sif said that
Oh,
some
God.
people think of Freya as strictly a fertility goddess.
Yeah,
That was me.
same.
I did
Mhm.
that.
Focusing.
Yellow flags.
Okay, yellow flags. Yep.
Sooty's yellow. This ties in.
Sif?
Oh, see?
Thank you. So, along with the yellow flags that are sooty approved, we have the 9 noble virtues. Specifically, God, it's not all necessarily bad. It's what is it? It's McNallen's version number 9 with ancestry that makes it.
The 9 noble virtues are less dog whistle and more stupid because they were made up as kind of a oh fuck we something along the lines of the 10 Commandments because they're no governing rule of how to heathen.
But also, let's have it be 9 so we have less rules and we're individual.
9 because Odin hung 9 nights. 9 is the magic
Okay,
number.
fine.
So what had happened was that, unfortunately, they're not like I think it was the Odinic Rite. The Odinic Rite over in the UK threw this list together, and while it's nothing in the list is inherently bad, in the original Odinic Rite list was created by a
Odinic
group of white
Rite
supremacists,
itself.
right? Which is not cute.
Yeah,
Not a
the
good look.
Odinic Rite itself. No. And part of that group was McNallen.
Yeah. McNallen brought that over to the AFA, changed one of them to Ancestry. The Ancestry has become quite a dog whistle. So he stuck that in there and has used it in AFA branding. The problem here is that there's nothing inherently wrong with the lists. Not all of them include ancestry. There's some variants. So that's why it's on the yellow flag list. You want to look twice and make sure you're not getting yourself into a group that thinks ancestry is in the top 10 must-dos.
Yeah.
Heathenry.
Well, I mean, and also on that note, like, a lot of, like, ancestry in general is also just a yellow flag, because a lot of people, like, it's valid, but a lot of people do end up getting into Norse heathenry because of their ancestry, which is, it's fine, but it's not a DNA-based religion. And so as long as like the groups are like, oh, you, like, that's kind of cool that you have this ancestry and stuff, like, but, you know, it's not necessary. I mean, that's okay.
It's the focus on it, yeah. If it's too much of a focus, then it's like
do slowly back away.
Yeah, because then you're going into the whole red flag area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have one last yellow flag, and it's the one that's gonna make me rage.
Sif, go for it.
Oh, okay. No, yeah. Any mentions of Norse shamanism? Theo, you can go. You can grab it.
Please.
So the concern with the phrase shamanism is it is a phrase that is being adopted by indigenous cultures who are extremely marginalized and have a lot of systemic oppression. That's extremely recent. Like, don't let anyone ever tell you that that stopped a long time ago. It's still ongoing. But it is a phrase that they are trying to reclaim to help generically, and I cannot emphasize enough, generically describe their praxis. And I say that because all of these different practices do have their own names. Yes, we should learn them, but there are also these groups that do identify with the name shaman. So when someone's like, oh, like, it's Norse shamanism, to me it's like, that word is being reclaimed by an oppressed group, like, we really shouldn't be using it.
And unfortunately, it's quite a popular term in academic spaces as well as pagan spaces. But it means nothing. It describes so many broad individual cultures when it's used by specifically like academics that it makes all cultures seem the same. And obviously that's not anywhere near the case. And it completely ignores any of their individuality. And in the case of specifically, quote unquote, Norse shamanism, which you're probably talking about Sata there, it doesn't encapsulate the practice. So it's one of those ones where, again, it's a yellow flag because the word shaman and shamanism and like neo-shamanism is so prevalent in the literature, but it's one of those ones we really do need to make an effort to stay away from and to refocus it back onto its original purpose and original use by the indigenous peoples that those practices belong to. I think that's it. Right?
So. Jay?
I just dropped a link to the Britannica site for the specific word shamanism, and it's actually a really good in-depth discussion on it. So it is definitely something that I recommend people to read. I have dropped it quite a few times when the subject has come up, and it really breaks it down like, this is shamanism, this is not.
I think that's great. We should definitely make sure we include that in our notes.
And you see things like with the QAnon shaman, where
again the blood pressure just
it's like playing into a stereotype.
It's very much playing into a stereotype when heathens or wannabe heathens do it. It's very clearly a jab at primitivism. Guys, please stop
it's so cringy. Like, you see people pretending to be a shaman, and it's just, ugh.
It's real cute when you find someone calling themselves a shaman and they're wearing like a horned helmet. Dude, cosplay harder.
No, the Q shaman was worse. He's sitting there claiming to be a shaman. He's got Norse rune tattoos. I can't remember if there were any straight out red flags on his tattoos.
It was Yggdrasil,
yes.
Volkner, and Mjolnir, yeah.
But then he's got a indigenous North American headdress on. And it's like, okay, let's culturally appropriate from so many places.
If you ever want to see what a red flag looks like as a person, it's that.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's that.
If there was ever a Mr. Red Flag pageant, he would win.
Yeah, pain.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it makes it worse the fact that he's very openly Christian as well. So that it spawned in some cases a much needed conversation in terms of Norse symbols being appropriated for hate. But it was a case of every single discussion I kind of saw was kind of ignoring the fact, one, that he was Christian, and two, they were dodging the conversation around him calling himself a shaman. I'm thinking about the Rolling Stone article and others like it, where it was a case of really like demonizing heathenry. And it was most of the conversations actually in that area lacked nuance in that respect. So
before we move away from heathen red flags and dog whistles and the like, there are two symbols that we didn't cover yet that I want to point out because they make me mad. The first one is the obvious SS bolt, the double Sawilo symbol that was appropriated by the Nazis. Sawilo's not a bad rune, the rune of the sun. On its own individually, it's very much not a dog whistle. The problem comes up when it's doubled in that thick, like, edgelord font, because that's exactly... Oh, it's so gross.
I love it.
It's exactly what the SS used. The SS on the side of their arm. It's that really thick, like...
Oh, you're right.
Edgy, lightning bolt look. That's exactly what it is. Some people will pretend like, oh, it's just a rune. No, when you do it, and it's the same as the symbol for the SS, maybe reconsider.
Like,
and if that is too much responsibility for you, stop wearing it.
Yet again, where it's like, we still have survivors that are alive. It is too fresh.
The other one, and I'm going to throw the link for the Anti-Defamation League hate symbols database, specifically in the neo-Nazi section in the description. When you look at that site, be aware that it's not very nuanced, and a lot of these symbols are very much formal, unless they're in the context of other white power groups. If you see a white power group using these runes, it's very clearly that intent. But if you see a random heathen with the Algi's rune on their arm, it's probably not inherently racist. Because, like, it's
I wear a pendant.
Use your critical discernment. Not everything on that list is inherently the reddest red flag, so, like, critical thought helps. One that I wanted to talk about, just grinds all of my gears, is the Algi's rune. That's the one that looks like a spiky little fork.
You're not wrong.
For the poems, it's the rune of the sedge. It's spiky grass. It's a defensive rune. It's spiky grass. The poem literally says, grows in the water, makes a ghastly wound, covering with blood every warrior who touches it. So what these
I like it.
white supremacists, all white supremacists seemingly share one brain cell, because what they did was they decided to start calling it the life rune.
What?
Makes no sense.
I know. It's such shit. It's so specifically bullshit, because not only did they misappropriate a rune, they ignored any form of the lore we have around it, decided it was connected to life, and then made it racist.
That makes me, like, rage, like almost everything else. Because that rune is actually part of one of the layers of my protections.
Same. It's a very protective rune.
Right. As a trigger. That's not life.
No.
It is not a trigger for life. It is a trigger for harm.
For all you witches out there who aren't familiar with them, this is the equivalent of a tarot reader pulling the death card and saying, yeah, there are good things coming to you.
Yeah.
There's not. I think one of the most irritating things about, like, Nazis and heathenry is the fact that so much of it is deviation from the law. They see themselves as, like, this is the truth. This is the right way of heathenry. But then when you're looking at their opinions, the knowledge they use, what information they spout, so much of it is so distant from what we know as evidence or whatnot, as close as we can possibly get to quote truth in terms of heathenry.
Of when I work with high schoolers, and it reminds me of when I read their essays. I have to look at them and go, and where did you get this information?
Yeah. They twist it.
It's just in.
Or just mutate it.
They're no better than high schoolers. It's fine.
So there are quite a few red flags in the witchy and occult spaces. Witches are not immune to stupid and racist and all that fun stuff. So one of the very first big ones, easy ones to spot, witch blood. You do not have to be from a long ancestral line of witches in order to practice magic. You don't. You could be in an ancestral generational practice, and that's awesome. And there are definitely times I'm jealous of that because, God, so you've got so much history. But you don't need to be part of a generational praxis. And it's totally okay. So if you hear people saying, oh, you need to have witch blood. No. Run the other direction.
Yeah.
No.
You'll also find that people like to pretend that they're better or more authentic witches because, like, their grandma was a witch or whatever, and, like, bitch, fuck off.
Or they gatekeep because of it.
This is where...
Exactly.
Yeah, or this is where you'll also find where the granddaughters of the witches you can burn.
You are not.
No. That one grinds my gears on multiple levels. That perpetuates the witch blood, but that also perpetuates people not realizing that there were so many innocent victims of the witch trials and the witch burnings.
And also it devalues that, like, and yet again, we are experiencing a time where names just fucking escape me. I have no brain for names. But, like, the original books that were written to identify a witch were anti-Semitic. Like,
yep. The hooked nose.
Curly hair. Like, the olive skin.
All of it.
It's just that it makes me rage. Like,
it was Jews, it was the Romani.
Like,
there's also something to be said for the general eyebrow raise that anybody who says I come from a long line of witches should get, because, like, I don't know of very many people who have genuinely been practicing out witches for generations. Because, like, societally, it doesn't really work.
It doesn't. No.
And there are families that have practiced some form of folk practices.
Absolutely.
And those are totally valid. But 90% of the times as well, those families have kept them very secretive. And they're closed to that family. So you're not going to go screaming from the hilltops on Twitter about it.
It's fine.
On that note, in witchy communities, if you don't mind me interjecting, Jay, when people use the phrase, like, oh, you're a changeling, or, like, you must be, like, part fae, or have fae genetics, people say that, and it's like, for clarification, often when someone says that, they're referring to someone who is neurodivergent, or or also autistic, or something like that. They're like, you must be a changeling because you have trouble with, like, human cues and stuff like that. So, like, that's what you are. And it's like, that's such ableist bullshit.
Yeah, the history of children that were supposedly switched with the children of the fair folk is huge. And I'll find the link for it. But Mara Starling, who is an amazing Welsh folk witch, did a whole episode about changelings and all that, and it opens your eyes to, holy hell, this was abuse. There were parents that would actually leave their kids out in the woods hoping for their child to get switched
because their baby had, quote unquote, something wrong with it.
So it had to be a fae child. It had to be. And it's like, no. And so that leads into the modern version of that, which is the indigo children, or Starseeds. Starseeds is the big one you'll see now, but it was indigo children for a while. They come up with a new name for it every couple of years. And basically what that is they came from the aliens. They came from other worlds, and apparently, I think last I saw, there were like 9 different types of starseeds based on you taking an internet quiz. You took an internet quiz to figure it out.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, so they're smarter than us, or they're more empathetic. Usually you'll see them being touted as like super
Ugh.
empaths, quote unquote, basically.
As an empath, I can feel that you're a little defensive right now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped shaking my head
But again,
for like 2 minutes.
I know you guys can't see my hands, but I'm doing that like
face palm. It's the starseed thing is really, really annoying because again it goes and not human.
merch idea. Let's maybe stop.
Yes.
Just that. Let's maybe stop.
God. Yep.
So unfortunately it only gets worse with these red
Yay.
flags. Yeah. So a name that you will see around, and people actually like idolize this person, and it makes me absolutely nauseated. There are people who will defend reading his material. No, there's just no need. You can read the Wikipedia pages on him and his theories, and that's good enough. And that's Julius Evola. He is known as a traditional occultist. He had horrible fascist and anti-Semitic worldviews. He actually admired Himmler, like looked up to him. I'm sorry, if you looked up to Himmler, right there, that's like flaming red flag, run the other direction.
It's a red fireball. It's been flung by a trebuchet.
Exactly, and you'll see his books pushed in some occult circles, often more ceremonial circles. And if you see someone saying how great he is, run away from that person. If you're seeing someone saying, read up on his ideals so you know what you're looking for, great, go ahead, do it. But no to Evola, and he leads into others as well, like Blavatsky and Bailey, and they are all about Theosophy. One of the last ones we have to talk about. Oh, Theosophy hurts. And you'll see the Theosophical societies all over the world now. They are not tied to this theory, to this whole group. They just kind of took the name. So Theosophy is, and this will sound real familiar, pure Aryan white race. And that comes from their whole idea of root races and the superiority of the white Aryan race over other races. Yeah. So they actually, when you can tell if an author has been influenced by Theosophy by the way that they talk about African traditional religions like hoodoo and voodoo and things of that nature. Look at the context clues of how they're talking about it. Chances are they are very heavily influenced by Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey. You will also see things like the Akashic records. That is very anti-Semitic. So when you see people talking about that, and a lot of these, unfortunately, will be seen in more New Age spaces. And there are going to be people that don't know how bad they are very often. You've got your New Agers who believe in starseeds. They believe in angel numbers. They believe in repeating patterns. They are the ones that believe in the power of affirmations.
Well, and like, for instance, as someone who came from someone who's starting a multifamily tradition with that stuff, I didn't know the Akashic records were anti-Semitic until Jay told me like a month ago. Like, yeah. And I've been a pagan for a long time.
Oh God, there was something else in that whole group that I was thinking about. No, that's okay. Oh my God, it'll come to me
You'll yell
eventually.
it at the end of the episode, I promise.
Lemuria.
Oh, Lemuria.
Atlantis. All of those are giant red flags. I'm going to put in the episode description a link to an episode of Magnolias and Magic on how all of that is ruining our spirituality. Big shout out. They are awesome. So that episode is really, really good about it because they actually dive a lot deeper than we were able to here.
I mean, the other fun thing about the New Agers is how quickly it devolves into conspiracy theories and QAnon shit.
Oh God,
it's real fast. So like you don't expect it, and then suddenly We're past the conspiracy theory, anti-Semitic point of no return, and you're just all in.
Yes.
To
Tinfoil
your
hat.
tits, if you
We
will.
go straight in. And the thing that always, because I got into paganism via witchcraft, which means I was very directly like side exposed to New Age stuff.
Yeah.
It reads a lot like puritanical Christianity with different words.
It does.
Yes.
It's just believe in the
absolutely.
universe. You didn't manifest it hard enough. It's the same concept. Some people are just inherently more deserving of wealth and success that you see in puritanical Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's the
Yes.
secret, right?
Yes.
Oh, I know something.
It's the power of positive thinking. With the problem with the power of positive thinking is it then gets
Yep.
ableist.
Mm-hmm.
So quick.
It's you can't. You're hurt. You're sick. You're disabled in some way, shape, or form. You're depressed. You're anxious because you're making yourself
But
do
Jay,
that. You don't believe hard enough.
Jay, remember that positive thoughts are way stronger than negative thoughts. So if you have some, it's probably okay. But if it doesn't happen, that means that you fucked up.
Right. It's
fine.
that whole theories. Those theories make me
Green.
break out in hives. Yeah, that too. But this last one is the worst. And so the three of them have not heard all of this. So I actually was told to keep this from them until we talked about this. So there are definitely TERFs in witchcraft. Witchcraft is not immune to TERFs in any way, shape, or form.
Explain TERFs real quick, just in case.
Okay. So it is trans-exclusive radical feminists. They are the ones who say, yes, we're all about feminism, but not for trans femmes. Now,
For farts.
trans women are women. Very simple.
End of discussion there. That is, trans women are women.
Yeah. Right. Women are women. Doesn't matter. Women are women. So, things to look out for when you start looking at species in witchcraft. One big one is going to pop out at you pretty quickly, unfortunately, because of the fact that Wicca is so out there. It's very visible. You're going to see Dianic Wicca. Dianic Wicca is strictly for women. And the way that they spell women makes me vomit.
No.
WOMBYN.
See, I read that as wombin.
Yeah.
That's exactly the point, though.
Out of this.
The point is that your
Right.
womanhood, in their worldview, the point is that your womanhood is directly tied to your womb.
What if
that
a
makes me
woman
wanna cut
has
mine
to have
out?
a hysterectomy for medical reasons?
Fake
All
woman.
of a
Then you're
Yep.
not a woman. Barf.
No,
What?
to them,
This is
you've
fine.
removed your
But
center of power.
they
Yeah,
couldn't
it's
help it.
gross. It's gross. Mm-hmm.
It's these are the
It's
same
gross.
people who try to tell you that like periods are magical times in your life, no matter how much pain you're in, because it's like
Yes.
maximum womanhood.
It is okay if you personally feel some shift in your energy during your period.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Like,
I'm happy for
And
you.
it's
embrace
okay
it.
I'm
if
jealous.
you are
Embrace it.
AFAB, assigned female at birth, and you have a womb, and you use that, like, and something with your practice has to do with you having a womb. That is okay. But an entire
Do not try and push
but an
it on people.
entire
Sect.
sect of worship dedicated to people who have wombs and no one else is allowed.
I need, one of those that was easy buttons. I need one that says, "What the fuck is that?"
and you push it and just
Definitely.
screams.
Mm-hmm. That often can sit there and weaponize the idea of the divine feminine. Again, the ideas of divine feminine and divine masculine can be used, and in spaces now they are going away from gendering it and putting it into other contexts. I know there are creators that we know who put it into divine passive and divine active. Totally different wording, same idea, but removing the gender from it, because gendering ideas in spirituality is
Unnecessary.
Remember, gender
Yes.
is a human construct. That does not mean
Yep.
it is invalid to identify as a gender. But but it's a human thing. Or like, what is gender to a tree?
So what I will end with this, to torture the three of them, I'm not going to bash the actual author or the book, because that is not what we are about. Although, if anyone asks me, I will tell you the details, but it is... the theories behind this are prevalent out there. It's not just this one book. I'll read you snippets, because I was actually able to find a Twitter thread that took screenshots. As women, we carry the stories, the pain and the fear of the women who have come before us. Okay. Starts off sounding okay.
Oh no.
We carry the stories of the women who were persecuted, buried, drowned, tortured, burnt, silenced because of their power. And we carry it in our very DNA.
Okay. This is just turning into a game. It's like dog whistle Mad Libs.
Yeah, this is like, this whole book is dog whistles. So waking and reclaiming the witch within us takes really big ovaries.
Oh, fuck me.
And then if you want to do this, it takes a womb deep recognition.
Oh, no, I hate that so much.
Yeah, they go into this whole big long list of what you have to do, what you have to recognize. Then they talk about the womb is, the witch is waking. It represents a piece of us.
I mean, a womb is literally a piece of a human being that has that.
Right. Here we go. The witch is a woman fully in her power. She's in touch with the dark. She knows how to be a witness, how to let things go, follow her own counsel. She questions everything. She's connected, pussy, to the earth. Like, this is how you get STIs. This is how we get infections. Please do not. No. So that is very much powers come from the vagina.
So when we say touch grass, that's the opposite of what we mean.
Don't do it that way.
Don't do that.
Please.
Don't do that. I am going to say this really loudly, and I'm going to say it right now. Men can be witches.
Yes.
Which is not a gendered term.
Intersex people can be witches. Trans people can be witches. You don't have to have a quote-unquote pussy.
There are no body parts required. No one would ever say, oh, you can't be a witch because you lost your hand. No, you don't need a body part of any kind to be a witch. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying.
Also, if you're one of those AFAB people in one of those groups and you have to have a hysterectomy and you're putting it off because you need a womb, please talk to your doctor. Please. I'm so upset.
Take a big, deep breath.
I'm so mad.
Cleansing breath, everybody.
Okay. Do we want to end it at that bombshell?
We're gonna end it. No, we're gonna end it on a recap of men can be witches.
Yep.
Don't need a womb to be a witch.
Correct.
It is never your fault if you don't know that something you are in possession of is a dog whistle. It is never your fault if you buy something from an Etsy store and later find out that they also produce dog whistle items. Never your fault for innocently buying a book that turns out to have a dog whistle in it. None of these things make you a bad heathen, a bad witch, a bad practitioner, any of that.
It also doesn't make you a bad heathen if one of your friends is trying to do something nice for you and buys you something that's a dog whistle.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's
I've just seen a lot of baby heathens asking that.
Yeah.
Never your fault. Never anyone's fault for not knowing. We've all not known. There's a bunch of shit I still don't know.
Yeah, same.
You guys don't know things?
I know.
So now that all of our lovely listeners have this knowledge, what do they do with it?
Learn more and move forward.
Seriously.
Basically.
Keep your eyes out. Keep your ears out. Be aware. Be vigilant, but don't be hyper vigilant. The last thing we want to do is encourage anyone to dogpile on someone who is innocently saying something that happens to be a dog whistle. That is not the vibe we want to do.
Nope.
We want to be cautious. We want to be understanding. We want to recognize that not everybody has this knowledge, and therefore not every instance of Odinism is an alt-right dog whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't attack people willy-nilly.
And if you're not sure, ask somebody. There are tons of more experienced heathens, occultists, witches out there. Go, hey, I think this is something. I want to say something to this person, but I'm not sure.
For instance, like, you could join our Discord server that we now have. A lot of people. Thank you. But like, we do have a lot of people in there that are extremely knowledgeable and up to date with all the dog whistles.
On various paths as well, because things are different between flavors of heathenry, types of witchcraft, all of that.
I'm not saying you need to like join and stay forever. Like, you can, we would love it, but you can also just come in and be like, is this bad? And we'd be like,
just join, pop in, hi, what the fuck is this? And then pop out when you're done.
Totally
That's fine.
Millie, stop tearing something apart. I can't see you. I know it's you.
Sif, are you gonna cut our chaos?
And on that note,
You're gonna make us sound professional?
no. Okay, fine, I will try.
Is it possible?
Okay,
Right.
okay.
We'll end it here. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to weave the connection between the like, subscribe, and bell button. If you're listening to this on Spotify or other podcasting platforms, don't forget to follow the show to make sure you see the latest episodes. And as always, keep heathenry weird.
Bye.
Don't forget the Discord.
Yep, Discord. We've got Discord. This is going to be on the.
We do have a Discord.
The descriptions.
Yeah, this is the chaotic outgo.
Well,
like,
I mean,
outro.
doing great.
But like, I want people to come to our Discord. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Join the Discord if you
Chill,
want to
I like
watch
it.
me be a gremlin on Tinder.
To be fair, you have to be 18 or older to view that.
That's right. Cut that out. Put it in the outtakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
I guess that's it.
Bye,
then.
everyone.
Yay!
We love you.
Mr. Red Flag, would you give me a sign? Show me some symbols I'll hate for all time.